Morning.
Good morning.
So I thank you, Sharon, for reading that Unity Worldwide Ministries vision and mission statements. It actually ties in really nicely with what I want to talk about this morning. And I want to start with just relating a story about my early days in Unity. As I've shared before, I found my first Unity congregation in Chicago, a church called Unity Church of Peace, and there was, it tended to draw a lot of refugees from different traditions. And I remember this one time that there's this one woman who loved coming. She loved meditation, she loved the community, she loved the coffee and the pastries after service, and just was really delightful. And she came from a Catholic background. And she would always come to our Unity service on Sundays after she had gone to Mass. And I remember eavesdropping on a conversation somebody was having with her, and the person asked, "Well, why do you still go to Mass?" Because she talked about how revived and how energetic she felt coming to the Unity services, and just really was in love with it. And just this person was curious, so why do you keep going to Mass on Sunday? And she said, and without missing a beat, she didn't have to think of it, she said, well, if I don't go to Mass, I'm going to go to hell. Completely serious about that. Completely believing that if she didn't go to Mass on that Sunday, she was going to hell. And it always stuck with me the power of that belief. Now, Unity was created originally as a school. It wasn't created as a denomination as such. And originally, the intent of the Fillmores was to enhance religious practice. So you could be a better Catholic by going and learning Unity teachings, or you could be a better Jew, or you could be a better Protestant. So it wasn't about being a religion. And over time, people continued to become drawn to Unity and actually were leaving their congregations because they felt that where they had come from and what they had practiced previously wasn't really doing it for them anymore. So they sort of insisted that Unity become a denomination as such. But originally, there was nothing wrong in the Fillmores' minds with worship in multiple other places. I mean, I think Charles Fillmore was one who said there are many paths to God. And today, there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, in Unity, we understand that people come from different traditions and practice many different things. So, the heartbreak, in my estimation, is that our institution of religion has sinned, has missed the mark. That the sin of religion is the shadow it can cast. And I invite you for a moment to put yourself in the shoes of that woman who came into the Unity Church where I attended all those years ago. And how does it feel to have this dark shadow over your soul that if I don't go and worship, fill in a blank Mass or synagogue or whatever, I'd want to make it a specific to one religion. But put yourself in the shoes of that. Well, how does it feel to have that shadow of judgment always casting itself over your soul? Where if I don't do this, if I don't worship in a certain way, or if I don't go to this certain thing, or if I don't pray to God in a certain way, I'm going to hell. And to me, it's heartbreaking. And I regard it as a spiritual shadow. Now, another story I'll share with you is more recent. This happened last week. A colleague had emailed me a little bit of distress. And she also comes from a Catholic background. And she actually feels very at home there. Much like the woman years ago that I met in Unity. And this other woman who emailed me last week told me the story in email of her background in Catholicism. She's a deeply spiritual person. She's a seeker, as we all are. But this woman had told me of her path of being curious about things like energy healing, A Course in Miracles, indigenous spiritual practice by Native Americans, and the joy of meditation. And all of these things have helped her in her faith. All of these things have actually done what Charles Fillmore said and Myrtle Fillmore said about unity in the beginning, that your unity practice will help you to become a better fill in the blank. Catholic, Jew, Muslim, Protestant, whatever. And my friend, my colleague from last week, I definitely have sensed that in her story, that her multi-pronged path of spirituality has helped her become a stronger, more faithful, devout Catholic, which is beautiful. And what we call this in Unity is developing an understanding faith. Very blind faith and understanding faith. And understanding faith is that when we really experience and we express the power of our faith, and we get in touch with the way our faith ripples through and has a positive impact on our lives and the lives of others, we understand that our personal relationship with Spirit, with God, with our faith tradition, is what sustains us, carries us forward. And we need not be judged by something outside of ourselves, because it's all in here. Now, my colleague's church friends, however, cast a shadow of doubt and fear on her peripheral practices, if we want to call them that. One of them said about her energy work, beware of the spirits you let in. And she was beginning to get psyched out by these comments from the people in her church, her prayer groups, about her pursuit of these things that were really fulfilling her and helping her feel more connected. So here the paradox is she's getting these comments from people outside of herself who cause a disconnection in her own soul, who've cast a shadow, a spiritual shadow over her soul. And she told me she felt as if she was displeasing God by pursuing these other things. And then the heartbreak continued in her story because she told me that she doesn't feel the Holy Spirit because of her quote-unquote doubt. So she asked, what do I do? Her specific question is, how do I reconcile my religion with my spirituality? Because that's what we're talking about here. And I meditated on her question for a bit, and it was the answer came actually very quickly to me. And I told her, well, God is love. And John writes about that in one of his letters in the New Testament. God is love. So let's pause on that for a moment. And I invite you just to spiritually sense God is love. Where does that land for you? Where you feel it viscerally in your body, and then how do you feel it spiritually in your soul? God is love. No qualifiers. Now, we are made in the image and likeness of God, we're taught. And unity teaches this as that we have the spark of divinity. We're created in God's image, and therefore we have a spark of divinity. We share in the inheritance of spirit. So this means God is love operates as us. God is love is us. And this is the understanding faith. And we come to that. That God is love operates as us. And when that really lands in body and soul, heart and mind, that's the understanding faith. Because then when somebody asks you, how do you reconcile your religion with your spirituality? It's not an academic question. We don't need to intellectualize it. Because really the only thing in that moment that I did for my colleague was to recognize her as God is love, which she always was anyway. I knew that, I sensed that, absolutely believed that about her and about all of you. So for me, it was easy. God is love operates as us. And it's the blind faith that casts the shadow. It's the faith, the way other people tell us how to have faith and how to be devout is what casts the shadow. Everything that we are from the moment we're incarnated here on earth, it's all an inside job. It's all coming from in here. And the sin, and the etymology of the word sin simply in archery means to miss the mark. Right? So the missing of the mark is that we're socialized to believe that it all comes from out there. We're socialized to give everybody else permission to project their stuff onto us. And really, it starts here. It's always an inside job. It always has been. That spark of divinity that we talk about in unity is coming from within, not from out there. So that blind faith casts a shadow, and it's under which we fear God. It's that blind faith that casts a shadow that makes us believe that we must appease God or we'll be punished, or we'll go to hell. And the understanding faith is the faith that fills us with light. And it's that light by which we express God as love. So whenever we are in prayer, or you are in prayer, and you understand and you fully embrace and accept that God is present everywhere, all good, and your prayer is answered and you feel it, you experience it, that's an understanding faith. The blind faith is to beg God for an outcome and to believe that somehow there's something out there that's got to come together to make it happen. Now I go back to my friend's discord about not feeling the Spirit. When my experience of her is that she very strongly is spiritual. And I would say that feeling the Spirit doesn't have to be spectacular. It doesn't have to be spectacular in the material or the sensory realms. I gave a talk years ago about how we don't see the burning bush and God talking through it, because I don't think we could handle it the way Moses could. And we don't need that. And there are people who really want that. Like, just, they want to hit it with, give me a sign and hit me with it. Speaking in tongues, another example of that. And I'll tell you, if I were going to feel that the presence of God was based in something that spectacular, I wouldn't be able to tell you I feel it, because I've never had that experience. Most of us probably haven't, unless there's some secret society going on that I don't know about, where you're all sharing this. And this is the understanding faith, to know that that power is already there, that we don't need the burning bush, we don't need to speak in tongues. And this is not to say that those things are wrong, or if and when they happen, that they are of the power of God. So I'm not disputing any of that. If you see the Virgin Mary and a water stain on the wall, and that speaks to you, God bless you. And it starts here. This is where the power is. Jesus taught us to pray that to believe you have received. And that's the profound truth, simple as it is. So when you pray, believe you have received. And that's the quantum power of the Christ principle, the understanding faith. God is love as you. So we're spiritual beings having a human experience. We've heard this many, many times in Unity. We're spiritual beings having a human experience. And I told my colleague, I said, as humans, we're designed to be curious. We don't become born into the world and just sort of hunker down. We're designed for experience. We're designed to experiment, including with our spiritual path and our religious practices. If you're familiar at all with child psychology, there's a classic experiment called the strange situation, where a toddler is in a room with its mother, and then the mother leaves the room. And then the toddler is observed. Like, how does the toddler behave with the absence of the parent? And the short of all that is that if the child, and this has been proven time and time again, that if the child actually has been emotionally supported by the parent, it could be mother, father, or a primary caregiver, as long as that child's been supported emotionally and knows that caregiver is safe, the child's also safe to explore outside of that relationship. So it's when the caregiver isn't attentive or is anxious that then the child starts to wonder, well, what's the right thing to do? And how am I supposed to feel? Or what's the appropriate feeling? And there's a whole bunch of dynamics around this. But I think about that strange situation experiment in the context of our relationship with God as well. And oftentimes, the shadow of our religion is that religion wants us to have an anxious relationship with Father, Mother, God. And if we don't do it the way that they say we're supposed to do it, we've got to be careful, or we're going to hell. And as I said, as human beings, we're designed for experience. We're designed to experiment. We're curious. I mean, these are all qualities endowed upon us by the Creator. So, God bless my colleague for seeking energy healing and meditating and taking A Course in Miracles and all of these things. Because really, we aren't human if we don't live. We're not being fully human if we're not curious, if we're not seeking other perspectives, including with our religion. So fear, casts the shadow, and that shadow operates to repress and to control. Freedom, on the other hand, welcomes the light, and that light shines brightly to grace us, to bring us joy to and through our human experience. So continue to be curious. Go to Mass if you want. Burn incense. Take yoga. Probably telling you all these things you're doing already. But it's good for us to have it affirmed. I honor your curiosity, as does God. God built you to be curious. And even within this container of unity, ask questions. Challenge what you're hearing if what you're hearing doesn't resonate. And my friends reaching out to me last week was as much a blessing to me as I think it was to her. And we're all in this together. So we share in this inheritance of the Spirit. So to embody, in these human vessels, to embody and live, God is love as you, means to do for others as you understand what God is doing for you. And with that, let's just take a moment in prayer and just feel into the omnipresence of the Spirit of God that's at the core of your being right now and always has been, always will be. Not judging by appearances, not judging by projections, not judging by the shoulds and the should nots, but truly judging from deep within our heart with the right judgment. Being kind, gentle, and patient with ourselves and with others. As we go about to do that which is ours to do, as chartered by God, and grateful for being blessed with the power of the presence, the power of choice, free will, and an understanding faith. And so it is. Amen. Amen.